I want to tell you something that will sound wrong before I explain it.
Lappy.
You don't tell anybody.
I've heard it.
Lappy.
Some of the most important things that I know about decision making, about handling failure, about ego and pressure, and what happens to your mind when everything going against you, I learned from a video game. Not from a book on psychology, not from therapy, though therapy helped, not from a podcast or a course or a framework, from Counter-Strike. 10 years of it, thousands of matches, hundreds of hours of being in a high pressure situation where one bad decision ends everything and you have to live with it for the length of time it takes to watch your team lose. I know how that sounds, but stay with me because what Counter-Strike taught me about how my mind works under pressure, under failure, under specific stress of things going wrong when they matter most. That knowledge has shown up everywhere, in business, in relationships, in this channel. The game was just a classroom. The lessons had nothing to do with gaming. I want to tell you about tilting. If you've ever played Counter-Strike, you know what tilting is. If you haven't, tilting is what happens to a player when they start losing, and the losing starts affecting their decisions. One bad round becomes a bad mindset. The bad mindset produces worse decisions. The worse decision produces more bad rounds. The spiral accelerates. And the thing about tilting, the thing that took me years to understand, is that it has nothing to do with the game. It is a window into something that was already there before you sat down to play. I remember specific matches. We are down 7 rounds, 2 players dead, the round is almost certainly over. And the choice in that moment is the same choice I faced in a real crisis. Do I play out the situation in front of me with full effort or clear thinking? Or do I let the outcome I'm afraid of contaminate my performance in the present? The first time I consciously made the better choice, in that moment in chaos, staying present, playing clean, doing my part regardless of the likely result, I felt something shift. Not in the game, in how I understood myself. The game just showed me something that no book had managed to show me yet. That my relationship to losing was not about the outcome. It was about my identity. Losing felt like evidence. Evidence that I wasn't good enough. That the round, the game, the effort had proven something about my worth. And the moment I separated the outcome from the evidence, the moment I understood that losing a round said nothing about who I was.
You are doing everything right.
Everything about how I played changed. Lesson 1. Tilting is a choice, not in the moment it starts. The start of a tilt is often automatic. A bad round, a missed shot, a teammate's mistake that costs you something and triggers a reaction. But the continuation of tilting is a choice, because the tilt continues as long as you give it permission.
Yeah.
As long as you let the last round be present in the next one. In Counter-Strike that means every round resets. The scoreboard exists, the history is there, but the next round is played with the situation as it is now, not as it was. I had to learn this in a game before I could apply it to real life, to the failed video, the bad week, the rejection, the creative work that didn't land. Everyday resets. The history is there. The next action is played from now, not from before. Lesson 2. Decision making is not determined by the outcome. This was the hardest lesson and the one that changed most. In Counter-Strike as in life, you can make the right decision and lose. You can make the wrong decision and win. The outcome and the quality of the decision are not the same thing.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
There is a round I remember clearly. We needed to hold a position. I made the textbook decision, the right call, and I was killed by a lucky shot. The old version of me would have tilted.
And then something happened. I let go.
would have interpreted the death as evidence of a bad decision. The developing version of me asked, was that the right call? With the information I had, the outcome was bad, the decision was correct. Learning to hold those two things separately, to evaluate decision by a process rather than the result, that is one of the most useful psychological shifts I have ever made, and I learned it from Counter-Strike before I had a language for it. Lesson 3. Ego is the most expensive thing in a game. CSGO punishes ego directly and immediately. The player who needs to be an entry-fragger every round, the player who cannot fall back on a bad game, the player who cannot admit that the strategy isn't working, the person who flames the team instead of adapting.
Weapon is when you never have to fire. I respectfully disagree.
These are not a character flaws in a gaming term, they are ego patterns. The need to be right, the need to be the one who carries, the inability to accept that today is not your day and the team needs something different from you. I had all of them, and every one of them costs round, measurably, visibly, immediately. The feedback loop in Counter-Strike is brutally honest. The ego pattern appears, the round is lost, the connection between the two is impossible to ignore if you are watching yourself honestly. In real life, that feedback loop is slower. The connection between ego and cost is measured in months and years. Counter-Strike compressed that to 90 seconds and made the education unavoidable. Lesson 4. You cannot control your teammate. That sounds obvious. That's not so obvious when you are inside it. The deepest frustration in Counter-Strike is when a teammate is making decisions that cost you something and you cannot change their behavior. I spent years being frustrated by this, and then I understood something that changed everything. The only performance I can control is mine. When a teammate costs me a round, my performance in the next round is entirely my responsibility. I can play that round well or poorly. The teammate's mistake don't determine that. I do. This sounds simple. It's not simple until you have failed to do it hundreds times in high pressure situation and eventually learn what it actually requires. It requires a fundamental shift from outcomes to actions, from result to what you can control. That shift took me years in Counter-Strike. It transferred immediately to everything else. What Counter-Strike was teaching me, without naming it, is something psychologists called the locus of control. Julian Rotter's concept from 1950s. The degree to which you believe you have control over the outcomes in your life. External locus, the game is rigged, the teammates are bad, the luck was against me, the situation was impossible. Internal locus, my decisions, my performance, my response to what happens. This is what I am responsible for. High performers in any fields trend toward internal locus, not because the world is always fair. It isn't. The Counter-Strike proves it consistently, but because internal locus keeps you focused on the only thing that can actually improve your own performance and your own choices. Chaos forced me to the internal locus, because external locus produced tilts that cost me directly and visibly. The feedback was immediate, the lesson was unavoidable, the game had no patience for excuses, and neither eventually did I. I still play Counter-Strike, not the way I used to. Fewer matches, more selective about when and why. But what I bring to those matches is different from what I brought 10 years ago. Losing a round doesn't mean what it used to mean. A bad game doesn't carry to the next one. A teammate's mistake is theirs, my response is mine. And when something goes wrong in the game or outside of it, the question I ask is not why did this happen to me? It is what do I do with this now? The game taught me that. Not the victories, not the high ranks, the 10,000 rounds of things going wrong and having to decide every time what kind of player you are going to be in the round that follows. The practice transfers. Tell me in comments, is there a game that taught you something about yourself? Press like and subscribe. This will help to reach people more like you. So let's rise together. Have a good flight, fam.